sorry, a turkey Thanksgiving cookie platter, and I thought you might want to decorate along with me. So anyway, I can't see if there's any comments, so if you leave me a comment, I will get back to you later. But in the meantime, let's decorate this adorable turkey Thanksgiving cookie platter. So I need to cut my piping bag here, so I'm just going to pinch the tip. Just cut off just a little bit here. And I'm going to start just by painting in a little bit of black icing here on this hat. I'm using royal icing in about a 15-second consistency. And I've gotten my paintbrush just barely damp. It makes it a little bit easier to paint. And this is actually a sample platter that I'm going to be using for a cookie decorating class I'm teaching next weekend. And we're just, excuse me. And we're just going to paint this in. I haven't talked much yet this morning, so my voice is a little bit rough. So I apologize for that. And hopefully the audio is okay. Last time the audio was all over the place. So I've been trying to figure that out. And hopefully it's better today. So I've painted the black icing in, and then I'm just going to go ahead and outline the hat with my black royal icing. And I'm going to go slow and stay as close to the edge as I can. And when I come to intersections, I'm just going to stop and change direction. Turn my cookie table so I can see what I'm doing. Got the camera kind of a little bit in the way here, so I'm just going to outline the rest of this. Little area I didn't paint here all the way, so I'm just going to paint that in. And then we can go ahead and flood in his hat. I'm using the same icing consistency for outlining and for flooding. And I just opened up a new set of piping bags, and for whatever reason, they're totally slippery. They keep slipping right out of my grip. So I'll be excited when this set of piping bags is done with, so I can get something that's a little grippier. I've been using these same piping bags for years, and I don't know why all of a sudden they're slippery, but this package is slippery. So I went almost all the way out to my outline, but not quite, because my icing consistency might be a little bit looser than the normal 15-second that I like to work with, and I don't want it to overflow the edges. So I'm just going to use my scribe to get it out to the edges for the rest of it. And then once that's done, I'm going to set this cookie aside to dry for a little bit so the icing has a chance to crust over. And then I will move on to the next part of the turkey, which will be his body. Or maybe I'll work on the pumpkin next. He's going to be holding a pumpkin cookie. Let me clean off my scribe so I don't get black icing in my pumpkin. And let's move on to the next cookie. So here's my cute little pumpkin, and I'm going to use my detail consistency icing to outline this pumpkin. I'm going to start in the center and just make a big oval. For my detail consistency icing, I usually leave the ends of my piping bags uncut, and that way I always know which one is which. So I have a big huge tail on this piping bag that gets in the way of videoing. I'm just going to carefully watch where my icing is falling as I go around the edge of the cookie. I'm going to go slow and keep even pressure on my piping bag because I want to stay right up next to the edge. Now I'm going to grab my flood consistency icing and go ahead and flood in the two sides. I'm not really worried about this icing overflowing because my detail consistency icing will hold everything in. And if you've just tuned in, I'm making a turkey Thanksgiving cookie platter. It's going to be a turkey with all of his feathers. He's going to be holding a pumpkin, and it's just going to be really cute when it's done, hopefully. And I'm doing this as a sample for a cookie decorating class that I'm teaching next weekend. So I'm just going to use my scribe here to smooth out the icing, pop any air bubbles, and then I'm going to set this cookie aside to dry also until the icing crusts over a little bit, probably about 10 minutes, because I don't want all of the sections to blend together. I want there to be some definite separation between these three areas. So let's put this one aside. And we're going to grab our gigantic turkey body, and we're just going to outline and flood him in. I'm actually going to cut a bigger hole in my piping bag because he's a big cookie and it'll take forever to flood in at this point. So I keep some paper towels handy so I can wipe off my scribe and my fingers so that I don't get a mess everywhere. And because I can't see what I'm doing all the way over there, I'm going to turn the cookie and continue on. And I'm lifting my piping bag up just a little bit off the cookie, and I'm watching the line of icing where it's falling, not my piping bag. And then I'm just going to flood this in. This icing is a pretty loose consistency, so I am going to use my scribe to get it out to the edge so it doesn't overflow. I did not make two consistencies of this brown icing. So if I go right up next to the edge, it probably would overflow the cookie. Which is okay, you just scrape it away, but it's much easier when you don't do that. So I'm just giving it a generous amount of flood icing here. I'm going to take my scribe now that is cleaned off, and I'm just going to move it all out to the edge. And it should blend together with the outline that I already did, and so you won't see the outline. This is one big turkey. It's not necessarily going to be the cutest cookie in the batch, but somebody is going to have a nice sugar high after eating this one. But this is the base for the whole set. I got these cookie cutters off of Amazon, so I'll leave a link in the description when this video is done, in case you want to make this set also. You can get all the cookie cutters there. All right, this little guy is done. A big guy, I guess I should say. And we'll grab our next cookie. Now my icing is pretty smooth, but if yours wasn't smooth, you could just give it a little shake and it would smooth right out. Oops, that happens. Well, I can see my outline over here. I don't want to see my outline. Sometimes I want to see the outline, and sometimes I don't. And then there's an air bubble coming right there, so we'll just pop that. All right, let's try to move this guy again. And he's done. All right, let's work on a little turkey foot. So I'm going to grab my orange icing and I'm just going to touch down in the middle of the cookie so I can get up by the edge and then come around, watching my icing as it's falling and not my piping bag. Hopefully my hand's not getting too much in the way for you guys. And as I come around here, I'm just going to make a curly cue to change directions. I could have also just touched down and changed directions. And then we'll just flood that in. And again, using my scribe to get the icing out to the edge. This is a pretty quick and easy little set. Might even be a good activity to do with the kids. Oh, I actually see how comments work now. Thanks, Marlene. If I'm saying your name right, if I'm not, I apologize. Thanks, Lucas. I appreciate you guys tuning in. If you weren't here at the beginning, I'm making a turkey cookie platter for Thanksgiving. This is a sample that I am using for a cookie decorating class I'm teaching next weekend. So this little foot is done, so we'll set it aside to dry, and we'll grab a chicken wing, or turkey wing, rather. And I'm just going to take my brown icing and do the same thing, touch down, slowly go around, lifting my piping bag up away from the cookie a little bit, and watching the line of icing where it's falling as I come around. As I get to the curves, my piping bag is a little closer to the cookie, and then I'll just flood him in. And I'm actually going to do a wet on wet effect with this one. So once we get the icing all the way out to the edge and it's smooth, I'm going to grab my red icing and just do a little wavy pattern to make it look more like a wing or feathers, I guess. Thanks, Lucas. I appreciate it. Lucas just said that this looks pretty good, and I'm hoping it turns out great when it's done. And I appreciate the feedback. It's always helpful. You know, I don't really know how this is working. I hope my audio is okay. Last time there was a lot of feedback, so I'm hoping it's better this time. All right, so grabbing my red royal icing, it's also probably at about a 10 to 12 second consistency. I'm just going to go across the top here, staying close to the cookie and making a wavy line. And when this dries, it'll settle into the icing. It'll be all one layer. It won't have any separation. And it'll be just a smooth surface. Oh, thanks, Lucas. I'm glad my audio is okay. I appreciate it. So it was really bad last time. So I'm just going to use my scribe here and settle down the ends, because that's where we started with outlining, and that icing is already starting to crust over. And then I'm going to set this aside to dry. I don't know if you can see that this is already blended in. There's no raised area where the red lines are. All right, and now let's do a feather. So let's start with our red icing for this feather. I'm going to actually outline it with a stiffer consistency icing. So this is detail consistency. If you wanted to count seconds, it's probably about a 25-second consistency icing. And I'm just going to go close to the edge, touch down, and I'm actually going to turn so I can see what I'm doing, and continue on. Touch down. Fix that right there because it broke up a little bit. And then continue on, touching down at the very end. Then I'll grab my flood consistency icing and we'll just fill this in, again getting close to the edge but not all the way to the edge. And I'm going to do a wet on wet effect also for this feather and put some little dots in the center. And using my scribe again. I know the scribe is tedious, but it's really what gives your cookie a nice professional finish. It smooths everything out. It gets your icing out to the points. And this scribe I've had for many, many years. I got it off of Amazon. I think it was part of a fondant decorating set. I can't find it anymore. I've been trying to find it so I could buy more. But the next best one that I like is the one by PME. And the reason why I like these, and they're not fancy and they're not pretty and they're not cute, but they do what they need to do. They've got a nice fine needle. And the ones that are all cute and fancy with the little beads, the beads move around on you as you're trying to decorate, and they're hard to hold. And so those are cute and I like them, but I don't like to use them for actual decorating. All right, that's all filled in. Now let's take our yellow icing and we're going to make dots. So I'm just going to start here on the edge, make a big dot over there, come across, and try to space these out as evenly as I can. And because I'm putting this right into the wet icing, once again, it will settle down and all blend together as one solid surface. Now I'm going to take my orange icing and put another dot right inside of the yellow dot. I don't really like the two dots I did at the bottom, but they're going to be hidden by the turkey body and everything, so you're not going to see them when the whole thing is assembled. And it will still taste delicious. All right, so this one is done. We'll set this aside and grab the next feather. And we'll do this one with orange. So this cookie has 9 feathers to it. I'm going to do 3 different designs, and then I will just repeat those designs. So there's my outline. I'll just flood this in. If you can hear that little beep, my cameras are outside and there's somebody doing yard work and they just keep going off. So it's a nice sunny day here in Northern California. It's a little bit chilly, but it's really actually quite beautiful. There's no wind. It'd be a great day to be outside. It's also a great day for cookie decorating. So if you're new to cookie decorating, the tools that I recommend that you have is this little cookie turntable so that you don't have to touch the cookie to move it around and you can get to all the different sides of it. You definitely want a scribe or toothpicks to move your icing around, pop the air bubbles, get it out to the edges. A paintbrush is also useful. It can help you smooth icing out and push it into place when you make your lines not quite the way where you want them to be. I also like to use a small table fan, which I don't have on right now because of the noise, but that helps your icing crust over faster and it helps you prevent craters in small little areas. What else? A projector is great if you are not an artist. I'm not. I need to use my projector a lot to transfer the design onto the cookies, but you can also use a paper piecing method, and I have a video about that. So you don't absolutely need to have a projector. If you get serious about cookie decorating, you might want to get a dehydrator. It really speeds up the drying time, which also then speeds up the whole decorating time because you can move on to the next step much faster. All right, so we're done with that. Let's give it some stripes. So I'm just going to make a little plaid design on this one. So I'm going to touch down, lift my piping bag up so that my line stays straight, and go all the way down to the bottom. And then I'm going to go across the top, so touch down, lift up, even pressure, and touch down again on the other side. And let's add a yellow stripe. So touching down, lifting up, even pressure on your piping bag, so you drop a straight line all the way down the cookie. Same thing over here. When you get close to the edge, you want to stop squeezing and just lay your line down. And I think I'll add a brown line too. So touch down, lift up your piping bag, even pressure, squeeze, squeeze, squeeze. Slowly come down your cookie, touch down, and let's do the same thing going across. Touch down, lift up, even pressure, squeeze, stop squeezing as you get close to the edge, and touch your line down again. And if you're patient, this should all blend together, and if you're not, like I am, you can take your scribe and just gently poke at it. Make sure you clean your scribe before you change colors so that it all blends together and becomes one surface without any raised areas. And this is called a wet on wet effect. All right, and that feather is done. Actually, let's move back to our pumpkin and fill in this other section here so it has some time to dry. The other two areas have already crusted over, so they're not going to blend together. It's not going to be like the wet on wet effect where it's all one solid surface. It's going to keep its separation just like this. I've got a couple of air bubbles I'm going to try to wiggle out here. All right, I'm going to set this guy back aside to dry. Normally I would say in front of a table fan, but my fan's not on right now. Then let's actually bring back in our turkey. So let's go ahead and flood in his space. So you can see here, I went a little bit too quick and I didn't keep my outline right next to the cookie. So I'm just going to wipe it away with my paintbrush and do that outline again. And I can flood this in. And as always, I'm going to use my scribe to get the icing out to the edges and to smooth the icing out, pop the air bubbles, etc., etc. Then I want to give him a couple of little patches up here on his hat. I probably should have done that while the cookie was wet, so it was a wet on wet effect as well, but I'm just going to go ahead and do it now. It'll look like they're sewn on. It'll be cute. So I'm going to be careful with my scribe here because I don't want to poke into the black icing that is still drying. So I just want to be very careful, and I'll go ahead and add another patch as well, even though it's going to all blend together into one. I'm just using my scribe to shape this a little bit. I don't really like how I piped it. So I'm just going to shape it. I think I'll actually make my orange patch a little bit bigger. And I'm just going to go right over the top and make it a little bit bigger. There's no right or wrong way to do this. You just kind of got to go with it as you're doing it. Sometimes you have an idea in your head and you forget steps, and then you got to figure out a way to make it work, and that's okay. Sometimes you get the cutest designs that way. All right, this one is going back aside to dry, and we'll do that last feather. And for this feather, I'm just going to do it yellow. I'm not going to do any wet on wet, so it'll be quick and easy. Just outline it, staying as close to the edge as I can, and then we'll flood it in. I got my elbow caught on the table there and couldn't continue. So let's just clean that up a little bit. So I can't draw at all. I'm not an artist at all when it comes to pen and paper, but I can color in the lines with royal icing, and I'm sure that you can too if you want to give this a try. I teach cookie decorating classes online as well as in person, And I do have some Christmas classes online. If you're interested, you can check those out. They're on my website, which is www.l-treats.com. And it's not too soon to start thinking about some exciting Christmas desserts. You know, you can have a lot of fun taking these classes. You can create some unforgettable memories and desserts that will impress everybody and are Instagram picture worthy and just a lot of fun. So if you're interested in cookie decorating and you want to do a deeper dive and learn all about royal icing, be sure to check those out. I have a couple of different ones. They're a lot of fun. They're also good stocking stuffers. If you want to help Santa out and make some cookies to put in the kids' stocking, do an elf on the shelf or just cute little Santa cookies to go in the stocking. Maybe some coal if you've been nothing but bad. Anyway, that one's done, and now we just have one little cookie that has not been decorated yet. And then we'll finish up the pumpkin and the turkey, and then we'll see if we can somewhat put this together without messing it all up. So, let's see. I think I'm going to make the bow tie in this maroon color. Just going to outline and flood in this whole thing. Maybe we should put the polka dots on this as well. Jazz it up just a little bit. This little piece of, I don't know, silicone, whatever this is here, is supposed to keep the cookie from moving it around. And it does for the most part, but it does move around a little bit still. So if you get to where you're icing, you're trying to settle it down with your scribe and it's sticking and it won't settle down, just wipe your scribe off and then gently tap at it and it'll lay right down. It's sticking to the other icing on your scribe, and once that's gone, it'll usually settle right down. So let's just make some little dots on this. And then we'll let this dry, and then once it's dry, we'll come back in and do the center again. Let's see if we can grab this guy and bring him back in. And let's do the hat brim. We'll go ahead and do that in the orange. Just going to make a rectangle here and flood that in. And I'll kind of use my scribe to shape it and just smooth it all out. I'm going to be very careful not to dig into the black icing here because it's still wet. Boy, those patches kind of really look like blobs, but they'll be okay when they're all decorated and done. Show you what it's supposed to look like. Grab it over here. And they really do come out cute when they're all finished. So, let's see. Maybe we can go ahead and do the eyes and stuff now. start by making it, no, it's still too wet. So this needs to dry a little bit more before we make the nose. So I'll just poke that down and we'll do the nose on top of it later. So we'll bring this back in and we'll just do the top of the pumpkin. And then we'll see if we can kind of lay this all out so you get an idea what it's going to look like, and we'll be done. I really like the shape of this pumpkin cutter that came with this set. It's a really cute pumpkin. Okay, let's see if we can lay this all out. Without messing anything up. So there's his big body. And the feathers are going to come over here like this. You have his head. And his feet will actually come up over the bottom of his body, but we can't do that right now. And his arms will go over the top. So here's his other arm. And his other little foot. So the body and the head would kind of be on top of all of these feathers, and then the pumpkin will be right here in the middle. But we can't really put it all together quite yet. And I don't know how well you can see in a vertical video. But when he's dry, he's going to be quite cute. See if I can back off a little bit so you can see this. So he's going to be quite adorable once he's dry. And you have it all put together. Well, anyway, thanks for joining me today. I hope that you enjoyed this. I had a lot of fun. And I'll post the finished video when everything's all put together. Thanks. Have a great rest of your Saturday. Bye.